'72 Dodge Dart 318 motor. The problem we're going to work on today is this steering gearbox. And I've actually took it out and put seals in it, and it's leaking right there out of that top. I can't get that to seal. So the other problem is, which may be an alignment problem, when I'm driving, let go of the steering wheel, it veers into oncoming traffic. So with those two issues, especially the driving into oncoming traffic, I decided to buy a new one. So when I take it to the alignment place, they can't blame the gearbox, and besides, it's leaking. So the first things we need to do is disconnect the battery. We got it jacked up here. We got some jack stands. We got some brakes back there. The other problem is the front seal on this transmission, so it's leaking out all the fluid out the front, so we'll fix that next. We're going to have to drop this off the gearbox. We're going to have to push that pin out right there where the little light's coming through. Right there, there's a roll pin, so you have to get a driver and drive that out of there, and pull back the steering column. Probably going to have to move this exhaust. The good thing is, since I've already done this once, I put new bolts and everything, so I've already removed the header, if that's got to come off, and these two starter bolts. Starter right there and one on the top. There's only two bolts, one right there. So we're going to remove the battery, and we're going to remove the electrical off of there, remove the starter, remove this for sure, and remove these two bolts off this exhaust and drop that down, because I'm pretty sure it won't fit through here with this exhaust on. So that's what we're going to do. Alright, I don't know if you can see that, but you have to turn the steering wheel to line that up so you can hit that with a roll pin. I made a super tool so I could hit it with a hammer, so I could drive on the end of it and drive that pin out. It's down on the ground now, right through that little hole right there. Hope you can see it. I've disconnected the battery. Now I'm going to take out the starter next and disconnect the steering wheel. So I'll come back when I get to those. Okay, I could not get the starter out because the exhaust, I can't get the exhaust out. But I know the starter will come out without taking this exhaust off, because I've done it. It's hard, but I don't know why I can't do it today. Just woke up on the wrong side of the bed. So then I've decided to take off this steering part, and basically you just put it on that just like that, on the end of that bolt, and tighten it up, and it'll pull that off of there. And that's what I got. I want to pull them off, get the starter out, see what we can get. Now I got a friend coming to help me. Alright, no problem. Once I pulled that off of there, it's nice because that kind of holds the weight of the starter. These kind of came down together, but I just have to remember to tuck this up in there when I put that starter, or else you're not going to get it back off. And in fact, I may put this back on there before I put the starter up in that hole. Give it a try. But anyway, that should be enough room right in there now to pull that steering gear out of that spot. So there's 3 bolts on the steering gear. You just have to look at your old steering gear, but they're basically 3 bolts, and you just undo them 3 bolts and that'll fall. Oh, we still got to take off the steering wheel next. Okay, another thing, you got to take off this grounding wire, these 3 screws. That's all you got to loosen up. There's some plastic pieces. These have been busted on mine, but these drop down, and those plastic pieces, if they're not broken, will stay up in there. If they're broken like mine, they're just going to fall out. But anyhow, you loosen those 3 screws, and that's all you got to do. If the steering wheel wants to hang a little bit, don't worry about it. It won't hurt it. And then you got to take a big screwdriver and pry that piece. Oh, I've already closed the hood, and I got my shade. So I'll show you that in a second. Okay, again, that 1 screw up in the front, 2 bolts, 7/16, pull them out, and boom, drop the steering wheel, be loosey-goosey. Had to have somebody help with this, had to have somebody pulling that steering wheel. You get in there, you pry that loose and jiggle it loose. Now I took that steering linkage off, the transmission linkage, but I probably didn't need to, and I almost lost a little pin, so I don't even recommend loosening that up, but I thought that was binding on it. And take off the 2 hoses, return hose right there, and the swivel, 5/8 swivel right there. So both of them, I just got them propped up. And that'll be the next thing to attack, would be if I still have any leaks, to go after that pump. But right now all we have is 3 bolts, and that should drop out of the bottom, so that's what we're doing next. Alright, there's the gearbox out, and I did not have to remove the exhaust manifold, did not have to remove the A-arm. Now it bumped every single thing in here, but it would come out. So if it comes out, it can go back in. I was able to push this exhaust out of the way, push this arm all the way back, and jiggled and bumped and turned and thing, and it came out. So there we go. We got it out. Now we can start putting the new one back in. Also wanted to say that I started about 9 o'clock and it's 11, so it took 2 hours to get the gearbox off there. You're going to have to look at both gearboxes, make sure you take everything off the gearboxes that needs to come off. I don't know if these are on the new gearbox, so we got to look at it and get that off. And when you put this back on, 2 important things. There's a notch in this, so it can only go on one way, and there's a notch in that, and it can only go in one spot. So it's not like you're going to put it on and have it all goofed up, but best thing is keep your wheels straight, steering wheel straight, but you know that's impossible. We had to move that over to get that out of there. So we are going to mount this in there, put everything back, turn the steering wheel straight, and then put that arm right there on last, and the steering wheel back on here last. Even though we did it kind of the last thing to get off, we're going to put it the last thing to put back on. So we'll put this back on, we'll put the exhaust and the starter and all that stuff back on, then we'll straighten up these wheels, we'll put this back on, and then we'll do this part last, and the hoses of course and all that. Alright, here's my new one. This is a Lars from Advanced Auto. Here, I don't know if that means anything. Lars Corporation, ordered from Advanced Auto, June 13, 2016. Well, I've noticed a couple things. I have to remove those 2 parts, but I'm not going to put them on until after I put this box in, so that'll be 2 less things to have to fight up inside there. Also, I noticed that these are different. This one's actually about 12 inches in length, where this one's only 11 and about a quarter. So that's going to save us some room. And these, even though they look different on the ends, they're exactly the same. They're like 13 inches. So even though they look different, they look pretty the same. I mean, they're measuring the same. Now, I don't understand all these numbers, so you don't really know what you're getting. but I am sending this core back. It's a $100 core, so I paid $250, and you get $100 back when you take that back to Advanced Auto, so they can rebuild this one for the next guy. So okay, I'm going to try to push that up into the hole. Alright, took off the exhaust all except for this one bolt that's in the head where there's radiator fluid. I actually have one bolt for the exhaust manifold that's broken off back there. You can see that dripping now because that's coming out that hole. So I got a piece of wire on here to hold this out of the way. Basically I tried to put that up in there, got it stuck 3 times because it's too heavy. Weighs 60-70 pounds. I just could not hold it up there. I'm not strong enough to jiggle it and wiggle it. It came out, but I sure didn't have the strength to put it back in there. So now I'm going to try to get it into position and tighten back up this thing to stop it leaking so I'm not laying in fluid. Alright, once I stopped crying about it, got the new pump installed, and I have the exhaust manifold back in place. So it's now 12 o'clock, so I guess I monkeyed with it maybe for 30 minutes trying to push it back up in there. I got it stuck 3 times, and I decided I just needed to pull that back. So now they're both back in position. Now I'm going to do the try to decide what I'm going to do next. Sure looks like that would be a lot easier to guide up in there. That line right there has to be lined up with the line in here, so I'm going to have to get my little mirror out. I think there's a little divot right there to line that up, but we're going to need 2 people. Okay, everything's back hooked up. The pin's back in there. This was horribly hard. I had to put a long extension and drive that thing back onto that gear. It was really hard. It took an hour. Tuning forks in here, trying to hammer it that way because it has to be lined up on that one particular key. A big pain. Really hard to do. Took an hour to put that on. So all in all, it took about 6 hours to put all this together, and it seems to turn and not have any leaks thus far. I see leak down there, but I'm pretty sure that's from the old one. There you go.